God's blessings, my friends. Well, we are the people of hope. And that means that we have to have something to hope for, something to hope in the middle of. I'll tell you, this last couple of weeks, I've had a lot of people ask me, why am I dealing with this issue? What is God doing at this time? How is He going to fix this? And I find it interesting that we're doing that, whereas a small group Bible study Wednesday mornings at 9:30, we've been going through the book of Ruth. It's a fascinating book. It's called one of the greatest love stories in Scripture. And how does it start? With a famine, with a family being driven out, with the death of father and sons, with 3 women who are disenfranchised, who are lost, who are not represented or even really acknowledged. And they have to return, and one goes away, but 2 hold on to each other through the bonds of the tragedy that has happened. And as you go through the story, the easy question to ask is, how could God let this happen to them? And yet, as the story progresses, you see this wonderful tale of providence and restoration happen, of God providing and working in the background. And what's interesting is when you really peel it back and take a deep look at it, how He works is by Boaz following the Levitical law that was given to him, being a righteous man, a man who knew God's will and followed God's rules. And because of that, and because of the compassion in his heart, he did what was right and just for both Naomi and Ruth. And that leads us to 2 great points I want to give to you today, because they very much answer that question, how is God working? First, Boaz knew his Scripture. And because he knew his Scripture, he knew God's will. And the second is, God doesn't cause tragedy, but He can use it to further the glory of His kingdom. And that's why when Boaz followed the law and he married Ruth, well, if you jump all the way to Matthew 1, you find out that that pair is mentioned in the very bloodline of Jesus Christ. You may not understand the suffering now. You may be praying for healing. You may be wondering, God, what are you doing? But just as He says in Jeremiah, He knows the plans He has for you. And just as Jesus said, in this world you're going to have trouble, but He has overcome the world. Just as Paul says, cast all your anxieties upon Him because He cares for you. My friends, He has, through Jesus Christ's death and resurrection, purchased and won you from sin, death, and the devil. And He is working to bring you into His very presence. And that is why we are the people of hope.